fine, we can always talk to each other, so it's not.
You seem like a very collegial group, so I'm sure you have things that you can fill in the time with. So thank you for inviting me. I am very excited to be here and to dive into the broadband task force work. So far, we were just thrilled at DEED to have the opportunity to work with all of you and to be involved with Commerce in leading this work. So the very first nuts and bolts thing that we have to get done is to identify an executive director. And how it works at DEED is we have a bit of work to do with HR and in collaboration with Commerce and the other agencies, or the other sub-cabinet members, to make sure that we get this job description set up properly, how it fits into our organizational chart, and so forth. So we've kind of gone through that process. We have discussed with my commissioner, Katie Clark-Sieben, how we want to position this role in the organization and the agency so that it has the ability to work closely with the commissioner and myself, as well as across agencies and with the governor's office. So for that reason, we created its own office and department in the agency that will report to me. And we, the next step, we did write a position description, which I think you all either had a chance to look at or at least give some input on. We have to go through the process, circulate that a bit, and so we asked the sub-cabinet members each to sign off on it. So the 4 sub-cabinet members have taken a look at it and given their sign-off, which is a great.
And Mike, can you remind us who's on the sub-cabinet, just
Absolutely.
so everybody?
Okay, yeah. Tell me if
It's good to remind everyone
Sure.
who's on the sub-cabinet.
Thank you. Commissioner Clark-Sieben, Carolyn Parnell, Commissioner of Minute Services, so that's the IT agency at Clean Government and State for the State. Lieutenant Governor Yvonne Petner-Solon, and Commissioner of Commerce, Mike Rothman. So those four people. So as of, I think, a day or two ago, I did get sign off from those 4 members on the position description itself. So now we're creating the position at DEED, and we want to share the position description with all of the task force members, because we know you'll be essential in helping us get the word out about the position and helping us identify potential candidates. We will also post the position so that we cast a wide net and make sure we're very transparent in our recruiting and selection. Mm-hmm. That will be conducted through our HR department, and it's just kind of, I don't know if you want to know the nuts and bolts of.
I think timeline is probably one of the most important pieces to us.
Exactly.
Is to understand, how quickly things will move here.
That's the thing we kind of weighed about whether to post it or not, is because that will slow it down. We have to give a window of time for to advertise the position and give people time to apply, and then you get many more resumes, so you have to sort through them. But our HR department knows that this is a priority, and we're trying to fast track it as much as possible. So if we can post the position in the next week or so, and then have maybe a couple weeks, 3-4 weeks, to allow people to apply, and then a couple of weeks for looking at the resumes, and then beginning the interview process, ideally in September, I'm thinking. And depending on the number of candidates that we have, HR typically would sort through them and identify, the top 8 to 12 that might meet the criteria, or the best that fit the criteria, the best, or has the strongest fit. And then there's usually one round of interviews and then a second round of interviews and a final. Do you know if there's been discussion on how the task force would like to participate in the process, and I'm not sure, there's a lot of confidentiality with people applying for jobs and so forth,
So at this point, I think that when you had shared the working position description, we were not at talked about more at a high level what type of interaction and skill set we thought the person needed to have, and I think that's the kind of the input that people gave was based on what types of skills and experiences might be important to the position to give input, and so that was the level that we were working at. I think that, to the degree that the task force could be involved in some way, that would be a welcome piece of this, being that a main duty of this person's work is to work with the task force, directed in the legislation to do that. There's also, of course, will be a lot of questions about, we haven't had this sort of interaction previously, and so I think, wanting to make sure that the successful candidate for the director position understands that, we're part of the deal. We're like the blended family that comes along. So we want to make sure that they're very comfortable working with us as volunteers. Right now, up to this point, the past 3 years, we've been responsible for setting out the outline for the annual report, or any of the other reporting that's been done, the tone and tenor of that, the staff work that's been done with that, which has largely been done by Bill and Diane, and with auxiliary help from MHTA staff, first Joanna Dornfeld, now John Tollefson. And so I think that, we want to make sure that this is going to be a good fit for us as well. Not sure what that means in terms of confidentiality and everything else, but if there is a way for, certainly I think the group has had, the group is a great resource for recruiting because I think our networks are large networks, and that's helpful to you in terms of this. I think that, if there's a way that I can help play a role in review, I'd be happy to do that.
Sure.
But I think we're interested because this is someone we're gonna get to work with.
Well, absolutely, and I would like to propose that I can think of maybe 1 or 2 ways that we can involve the task force or a member from your task force to participate. Let me just ask a few more questions with HR on what the possibilities might be, and certainly Department of Commerce will be involved too, so
that would be great.
as well. So, but we recognize the important role that you all will play with this person's position.
Yeah.
And so I do think that's a very good idea.
It's also helpful for us to hear the timeline, just because we do have a report due to the governor in December. And so I think that what this tells us is this report is largely going to be directed and shaped by us fully, because just with this timeline, whoever the successful candidate is, sounds like the earliest we could hope for is October for actual start date, and it might even be later, depending if they're coming from somewhere else and what sorts of work they have to wind down.
Right.
So I think that, that gives us a good idea of what our next few months look like as well. That's an important piece.
How does that timeline, obviously nothing is ever as fast as you want it to be. Is that an acceptable timeline for the work you're doing, or does it somehow slow anything down? I'd just like to know.
Well, we of course would have liked yesterday,
because
but I think that as quickly as possible, just because it'll be ideal that the person is on board before the beginning of next year, before the beginning of a calendar year 14. They're also tasked with a number of things that right now the task force has been doing in terms of legislative piece. I think we'll still have a lot of input into that, but we would want them on board before a legislative session and things like that as well, I think. I would think that's an important piece here. I think legislators would like to see that too, being that, they invested their time and energy in making sure, especially, making sure that Representative Johnson, Senator Schmidt, having that position in place, I think would be important too.
Well, I'll do my best to shorten the window of how long the job can be posted, but within reason to give people a chance. But I'll ask your assistance then to, if you do have any names of people that you think might be interested, make sure they're at the ready to watch for that posting and then apply, because the window will be shorter. If we post it next week, which is beginning of August, maybe 2 weeks or 3, leaving that job posting open. And then we will also determine who the review committee will be, the interview group will be, and per government, how government works, we have to make sure we're consistent, so that, you know, whoever is interviewing candidate A is the same group interviewing candidate B, C, D, and all that. So it gets into schedule, you know, making sure that we can align schedules and so forth. That's pretty challenging, given the people that will be involved. But if we work in advance, we'll try to set that up so that we can block some times off with that group.
I think the other thing that you said that I think is really important for us to hear is that this, the director of the Office of Broadband, the Office of Broadband will have its own sort of office in Deed, working with the sub-cabinet, working with Commerce. That's important to us, to have that ability to have that direct line into the management level. I think that's a critical factor of success here, is having that.
And yet it's still a part of the department, the agency, and its mission, not a separate entity as the Science Technology Authority, you know, didn't report directly to the commissioner and so forth. So I think it's a good plan.
Do others have comments, observations? I mean, if there is any way before the position is posted for us to see the final position description, just in case.
I'd love to send that out electronically.
Because that wasn't available to all of us previously, I think that would be just nice. Knowing that it is still, before it's officially posted, not probably to be shared and those sorts of things, but whatever you can do and whatever instructions you need to give us, I think that would be quite helpful.
Sure, and if I think electronic version is best. I was going to bring copies, but I figured it's just better.
If you forward it to me today, we can distribute it quickly here to everyone on the task force.
I'll do that.
That would be great.
I just had a clarifying question, Robert.
Sure, absolutely.
So who will make the actual hiring decision? I, for some reason, was under the impression that this was going to be a gubernatorial appointee.
It will be.
But running it through HR at Deed, so then a recommendation will be made to the governor, and he will make the final appointment. Is that
Probably. I think we'll be in conversation with the governor's office throughout the process. And my guess is if we had 2 or 3 top candidates, that, you know, there would be a recommendation to the governor's office, and he would make that choice. So.
It's probably too soon to know, and I've been involved in a lot of different nominating processes, whether Deed would forward a single candidate or multiple candidates. You probably don't.
I think it depends on who surfaces.
Sure.
And we might rank some candidates, but, you know, if you had 2 or 3 strong ones, certain people bring different attributes, and you would be able to select from that. Or if there's one, you know, very clear recommendation, we would communicate it that way.
Thank you, that's helpful.
Yeah.
So it might look a little like Commission on Judicial Selection and what happens there, where sometimes there's a very clear candidate that the governor might interview or talk with on the phone or have some interaction with. Sometimes there's 3 candidates. The governor interviews all of those people either in person or in some way, and then, you know, makes a final determination. It is a gubernatorial appointment, but with Commission on Judicial Selection, there still are certain HR type requirements that a candidate needs to meet, and be able to make it through. So that to me makes sense, that, and especially because the reporting here, although it's a gubernatorial appointment, it's not necessarily a cabinet level position, and so I do like that this position has a home and some responsibility to reporting and interacting within the organization. That I think can make for some better successes along the way.
Can you share with me, how long has this group been You were all appointed by the governor?
We are,
Yeah.
we are.
And is there a term for?
Till the end of the governor's term.
Okay.
So whether that is 1 term or 2 terms, we continue to serve. And we serve at the pleasure of the governor. Each one of us is a gubernatorial appointment. The chair is a gubernatorial appointment. And we were established by executive order. The executive order, I believe, happened in July or August of 2011, if I'm remembering this correctly. And then the appointments were made in about November of 2011, maybe October, and our first meeting took place somewhere around November of 2011. I know you know this, we've been a mighty producer of work in that time for a volunteer group. I think we did 4 reports in the first year, partly because we needed to update a number of things and then also had this responsibility for an annual report. We have looked at this as, although appointed by the governor, we've taken the liberty to report to the legislature as well. And we think that was critical in being able to then establish the Office of Broadband by keeping the legislature in the loop. It's been an important piece, and so we really see this position as important for continuing on the work. And being all volunteer, there are moments when I think having a single voice and leader to continue to work on from day to day, from week to week, is going to be really, I think we saw that as an important step forward. We also saw it as an important step forward to be thinking about, how do we make sure that the work, we're the 3rd Governor's Broadband Task Force, 2 under Governor Pawlenty. Joanne was the chair of the 2nd one. She's in the audience today. Rick King was the chair of the first one, I believe, and Shirley did a lot of work under that. We want to try to make sure that we do our job well, and every Minnesotan has broadband, and then we can all ride into some sort of sunset someday. But until then, we're not going to rest.
Uh-huh. Thank you. How often do you all meet?
We meet monthly by the executive order.
Here?
Well, we actually travel around the state, and so that's one of the other things. I think one of the other things that probably needs some attention out of, when we were appointed, there was no budget item, and I think the understanding of the legislature is that now these good volunteers might be able to have mileage repaid and have per diem, which we have never experienced. We also have had no budget for things even as simple as lunch. And so through the good graces of, organizations or individuals, Connect Minnesota, at times MHTA, at times Today CenturyLink is doing that. But that has definitely placed at times, it takes a lot of extra to arrange for these things. And so I think having an executive director who can help us get through that process and having the department work on those sorts of things would be important as well.
And I believe that then there's also a second position that we'll have to turn our attention to, or the executive director was identified will, there is within the budget an expectation, I believe, to hire a coordinator who can, I think, order lunches and set these help set these meetings up. I think that would be helpful, as well as the staff person at Commerce who, and so that.
More the mapping piece, is that, not the mapping, but the predictive work of, or is that, I can't remember how we're doing this. So that's, I think these are questions that we need, sort of button down in September and October so that we can properly keep rolling.
Okay.
So we have met all over the state of Minnesota. That's a great part. We've been up to Thief River Falls. We will be going to Red Wing in August. We have been down to Winona. We're going to Windham, I believe. Is that right? Alexandria. We really have tried to move our meetings around. we always tend to, right before a report is due, find a metro location, sometimes ties. For a while, we had, before Andrea joined us, our member from Bloomington was kind enough to have us meeting at Bloomington City Hall several times, which was quite convenient. And so we're always searching for the next good location.
You're always welcome to meet at Deed.
Well, thank you.
We
That's
have-
great.
We have spaces, so
Okay.
keep that in mind as well.
Questions,
yeah.
observations, other things that you have for us?
Not at this time. I think, my job really is to expedite getting this position hired.
Yeah. So. Dennis,
I might just
from
say
the
that-
commerce perspective.
That the commissioner has basically told us to basically continue business as usual.
Yeah, we've
until-
appreciated that.
Until he can get up and running with his position. So that's our intent, is to continue supporting the task force. And then, once there's a director, we can discuss with them how we're going to coordinate this and so forth.
Great. I just want to say that I appreciate that very much, and if you tell the commissioner that, and Diane and Bill's continued work with the task force has, because we're in kind of, once the law passed and all of that, you're in kind of a murky land where you're not quite sure who's supposed to be doing what, and so Commerce has done a great job continuing to support the task force, and we have greatly appreciated that. We've not felt like we were put out to pasture or anything like that.
I think it's very exciting, and it's exciting to have two agencies joining forces on this
Yeah.
topic. I think it's really been a theme of this administration, is breaking down those barriers or silos and leveraging, what different agencies have to offer and bring to the table. And it's been, I think, very effective in many other cases. So this is another, hopefully we'll all see that this, makes it even stronger effort going forward.
Well, we really appreciate you being here. We appreciate Heather has been a constant of our task force meetings as well, because we do see this as a major theme of ours has been that broadband access for all Minnesotans is an economic development issue, and not just in the sense of, starting a business. We know that's very important in running your business, but also in economic development for the individual. That there is a difference when you have high-speed broadband, the type of income that you might be able to achieve, the sort of access that your family has to healthcare or education. And so we're appreciative that Heather has been here with us the entire time as well, and that, there are both, like anything, there are cross-departmental issues here, and so navigating that is important, and we like that everyone is going to be working together on this, so we appreciate that a great deal.
Certainly.
If there's nothing else, we're gonna move to the next agenda item, and